Have you ever finished a book, closed it, and put it back on the shelf and then realized you barely remember anything? And I have. For the longest time, I thought it meant maybe I was a bad reader, I wasn't paying enough attention, or maybe I should have highlighted more. Maybe I should have taken more notes or read slower. But after years of reading authors like Murakami, Dan Brown, and very recently, Frida McFadden and Riley Sager, I realized the problem wasn't my memory. It was the way I was approaching books. And I think it's one of the biggest reading mistakes nobody talks about. Somewhere along the way, reading stopped being just a hobby and it became another thing that we wanted to optimize. We just don't read anymore. Like, we track how many books we have read this year, we count pages, we set goals, we buy beautiful bookmarks. I love those, by the way. Reading journals, and then somehow spend more time thinking about reading than actually reading. Without even noticing it, we start treating books like achievements rather than experiences. And when that happens, the beauty is lost. I think social media deserves some of the blame for this. Every day we are told to read books, 50 books a year, maybe wake up at 5 in the morning, read 30 pages before breakfast, highlight every important sentence, remember every quote, build a second brain. It all sounds very productive and impressive, but very few people ask a simple question. Are you actually enjoying the book that you're reading? Or are you just trying to finish it off? I have caught myself doing this more than times I would like to remember or admit. I am halfway through a novel, and instead of wondering what would happen next, I would be just calculating how many pages are left. Or I would think, if I read another 100 pages today, then I can finish this book by tomorrow and start a new book after that. So I wasn't reading the story anymore. Technically, I was just chasing that satisfaction of saying that I had finished another book. That's when I realized I had accidentally turned reading into a competitive sport. The funny aspect is the books I remember the most are never the ones that I rushed through. I still remember the strange dream-like feeling I had when I read Haruki Murakami for the first time. I can't explain every symbol or every mysterious character, but I remember how those books made me feel. It's like remembering a place visited years ago. You don't remember every street or every conversation, but you remember the atmosphere. And maybe that's exactly what Murakami wanted. Not every story is asking you to be understood. Some stories are asking to be felt. Not every story is asking to be understood. Some stories are asking to be felt. Then you have someone like Frida McFadden. Completely different experience when you're reading, you know it. When I pick up one of her books, I'm not expecting beautiful prose or deep philosophical ideas. I am expecting sleepless nights because I keep telling myself just one more chapter. That's the magic of her writing. She creates momentum. She wants you to keep turning the pages. If I interrupted that experience every few chapters to analyze every clue, I would probably ruin the very thing that makes her books so addictive. Sometimes the best compliment you can give a thriller is that it completely stole your evening. Uh, Dan Brown does something similar but on a much larger scale. Every chapter ends with another mystery, another clue, another revelation, another chase. When I first read The Da Vinci Code, I wasn't admiring sentence structure or looking for literary symbolism. I was simply having fun. And that's perfectly okay. We sometimes forget that entertainment isn't a lesser form of reading. A book doesn't become more valuable just because it's difficult. The same goes for Riley Sager. His novels constantly make you question your assumptions. Every time you think you have solved the mystery, he quietly moves the ground beneath your feet. That's the experience he's selling. Suspicion, curiosity, Not every book needs to leave you with a profound life lesson. Sometimes it just needs to make you forget to check your phone for like 4 hours. And that brings me to something I think we don't say enough in the reading community. It's okay if you don't remember every detail of every book you have ever read. Seriously, think about your favorite holiday. Can you remember every meal you had, every conversation, every street you walked down? Probably not, but you still remember how that trip made you feel. Books work the same way. We put far too much pressure on ourselves to remember everything when maybe remembering the feeling is enough. Another mistake I see is people feeling guilty about abandoning books. We have somehow created this idea that once you start a book, you owe to read it completely. I disagree. Life is too short, and there are too many incredible books waiting to be discovered. If you are 100 pages into a novel and you are just forcing yourself to continue simply because you want to finish that book and you don't want to quit, ask yourself this: if someone handed you this exact book today, knowing everything you have read so far, would you still choose to start it? If the answer is no, maybe it's time to let go. Not every book is for every reader, and that's fine. One of the biggest changes I have made recently is giving myself the permission to read according to my mood instead of according to someone's imaginary reading plan. Some weeks I want something fast and exciting, other weeks I just want something quiet and reflective. Sometimes I want Dan Brown conspiracy, sometimes I want Murakami to leave me confused for 300 pages. Neither of the choice is better than the other. They are just different experiences for different moments in life. And maybe that's the biggest reading lesson I have learned. Books aren't trophies. They are conversations. Some conversations change your life, some simply make you laugh, and some leave you with more questions than answers. And some are so enjoyable that years later you can't remember the plot, but you immediately remember how you felt while reading that book. So, if you have ever worried that you are reading too slowly, too quickly, not taking enough notes, forgetting too much, or not reading enough books every year, every month, maybe you're focusing on the wrong thing. The real goal of reading is not to impress other readers. It is not to hit a yearly target. It's not to fill a bookshelf with books you have barely experienced. The real goal is much simpler than that. It's to lose yourself in the story, to think differently because of an idea, to stay awake for later than you plan to because you just genuinely want to find out what happens next. And maybe years later, to smile when someone mentions that book because you remember exactly how it made you feel. I think that's what great reading is really about. And strangely enough, it's the one reading mistake nobody really talks about. If you like this video, do tell me in comments and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Thank you for watching. Bye.